You are watching Conscious Evolution with Wes Heffernan.
In the metaphysical way, the unseen, to bring about the seen, heard in this case. I guess seen too. But.
Right. And sometimes it's seeing it from other people's perspective. So what you were just talking about, it made me think of sometimes you see somebody else make a mistake and you be like, okay, I'm gonna learn from their mistake and not make that mistake. Or how many times have you seen somebody say, oh, my best friend or a good friend or family member had a heart attack, and you know what, I'm gonna start eating right. I'm gonna start working out.
It becomes a launching pad for making a change. And I think that's a great word because I use it in that notebook quite often, a launching pad. So like your launching pad is A and your destination is B. Well, your B becomes a new launching pad for your next destination as you create these chain of events that become your life, right? And so, right, like.
And the chain of events could spark somebody else. Like, oh, I saw this person go back to school, so I'm gonna go back to school. I saw this person, you know, so that chain of events can affect more people than you even realize.
It's a ripple, right? And I mean, I have no control. It's just exciting to be, again, just to be a part of the process that is unfolding currently in time and space. But also to be blessed with the opportunity to be able to have the experiences I've had, to be able to, financially share this with the world in the way in which we're doing it.
Building a library is what you're doing.
It's funny that you say that. Yes, exactly.
A video library.
Yeah.
Which is pretty awesome.
I guess part of the point is to bring the Library of Alexandria back into existence, right? And it's not. I'm just writing my own books to put in it, and hope that others come along, whether it's on this platform or another. It doesn't matter, right?
Whether it's this season or years from now,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, think of many things. Years later, people start like my kids, for example. You know, I listen to 90s music sometimes because it brings me back to high school and all that. And so my daughter will say, like, hey Siri, who was this? And then 2 days later, she's listening to that.
Right.
This happened recently with my youngest daughter. I'm walking in her room and she's listening to something I was listening to. It's like, wow, it's like rebirth.
Right, for sure. Yes, yeah. Yes. From a whole different, like, generation, octave, right?
Generation.
Yeah, that's funny.
So yeah, that's what conscious evolution will be.
Hopefully, I'm just doing my part. Just do it. Just Nike. Just do it, right? And I don't know what else to.
You'll get some random person from another country sending you a message via YouTube.
Well, I mean, I have that in Facebook. There's several different countries represented by people that I don't say like talk to regularly, but chat with at bare minimum on a regular basis. Or if I see they've posted something, I'll go check it out and take a look, see, comment.
Right.
But yeah, I think I had a conversation with my wife yesterday, and the idea that at the end of the day, like some of the problems we had in communicating, like her and my oldest son Caleb are extraordinarily similar. Like almost like as if they're the same person, but different generation. My wife's female, my son's male, but it's like they're the same person from my perspective. And the same struggles that I used to have with my wife and us communicating during this particular period of time, I see reflecting in the same way with my son. But with the experience I had with my wife, it's been a little easier journey with my son, and we've made a lot of progress. And it involves, instead of telling, it's asking, right? And I mean, for sure, I may ask leading questions to try to get him to a particular point that I want him to see, but I'm not telling him what to see, more along the lines of telling him
that
where
Facebook
to look,
quote,
right?
Like you said.
And that's helped a lot. But in the conversation me and my wife were having, we were kind of discussing, and this was like really, I guess, the final piece to the puzzle that was really, okay, I'm ready. And it's, we were able to share openly that often, apparently, because even some of my people like Josh, Lonnie, Sean, like when I talk or telling my side of the story or what I see, right, it's as if that is the truth, right? And I don't mean it to be that way, right? It is my
Your
truth for sure, but I don't mean that, like, I don't mean to dishonor whatever your experience is, right? And like, it's been a hard obstacle to overcome, because what I didn't really realize was how drastically different my experience, my story is from the ocean, as it pertains to, my grandparents and all that we talked about. And so what I finally was able to say in a way was, right, well, on the flip side of that, from someone where no matter where I look, no one agrees with what I see. And so I'm in this place of isolation where when all I'm trying to do is share something with you so we can talk about it, right? You're not allowing space for my experience to be real. And so while neither of us are meaning to, the way that this is coming out is I'm sharing my truth and you're sharing yours, and because we're, for whatever, wherever it's at, because this has to be the truth and this has to be the truth and they don't align, there's no growth, there's no conversation, it quickly devolves into an argument or a fight if you allow it. And I think this is one of the great divides all across our country. And I guess just get to the end here and wrap this thing up, the conclusion, like, what is the purpose? Why am I driven? Like, why do I want to share this? What is it that I'm sharing? There's so many different angles and questions you can ask. And at the end of the day, when I look out and I see all the division and struggles, whether you look politically, whether you look in religiously, whether you look in, financially, is that the right word? Socioeconomically speaking, whether you look at color, we're divided. Whether you look at sex, we're divided. Whether you look at sexual preference, we're divided. Whether you look, no matter what and where you look, we're divided. And that division is a fact of nature, right? And that's, to me, we're gonna get into the ego in this space. But to me, the ego is what causes and creates that division. But instead of seeing it as a division, think of it as the individualization of a particular component of this vast and complex system, right? And then through the course of the creation of this whole vast and complex system, as it exhales and inhales, right? As it gives everything it has to give and then brings it all back together. When it brings it all back together, you end up with a human being, this vessel that can then have a portion of the source inserted into it, and then it itself breathe out and breathe in. And so instead of it being all these divisions, right, when I look out there and I see all these possibility for unification of these individual components that are meant to work together and meant to be in harmony and meant to share in this process of creating, right? And while I'm not going to pretend to necessarily know how to get from where we are to the utopia of the Garden of Eden or heaven, right? Like living that process is the gift, right? And being a part of that change and being a part of that is the gift of life. That's the purpose of life, right? Is to experience that movement and that growth and that evolution from wherever you are today to where you end up being tonight in longer and longer patterns. And so all the experiences I've had over the course of my life has led me to really be able to conceptualize that chasm or that division or that brick wall that's creating the inability to communicate. And while it shows up amongst men and it shows up amongst women and it shows up amongst any group, there's still a very simple process that's at play behind the scenes at the core level that represents the Trinity right? And in that, there's a masculine and a feminine. And in that, what one represents is, a looking this way, and what another represents is looking this way. What one represents is a filling of a structure. What one represents is the building of a structure. And even if we use the same words and the same language to try to communicate those two parts, if we're doing it from an individual perspective, right? Here's this part and here's this part trying to communicate, it's never going to work. You have to be able to take a step back and say, look, here's this thing, this universe that has these components that can work together. And at its core level, here's these three components: the mind, the body, the spirit, the Father, Son, the Holy Ghost, red, green, and blue, creates everything we see, on and on and on and on and on, right? That have to function and work together in order to create the balance necessary.
Thanks for watching. Join us next time on Conscious Evolution. Don't forget to subscribe.